I am Bengali.
Okay, yeah, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Now Farah is learning Bengali.
Yes, I can understand Bengali, like little.
Okay, Pragapti, now you can start.
Sir, can you make me the host?
Yes. Host. Yeah. Please you click the view mode so that it will be easily to see. Full view. Is there anything? Farah, can you help?
Yes, sir. Sir,
Full
like,
view.
yes, sir. Like, what I have to do, sir? Can you please repeat, sir? Sorry, I was.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Pragapti, you can add our institute logo.
Loco, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, start.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So my topic for presentation is community development on stigma and mental health. So when we think about community development, it means taking collective actions for issues that are important to the community. Like, for example, a community can come together and fight against or think about some possible solutions for, let's just say, animal rights. Today, we are talking about stigma and mental health. So when we think about stigma, the slide is not changing. Okay.
You just
so
click.
when we think about stigma, yeah, it's changed. Stigma is basically in the level of cognition. If we look at it, it's negative attitudes and beliefs that leads to behavior like discrimination and social exclusion. Now, where does the stigma stem from? It stems from affective component, which are emotions of fear and also includes lack of understanding and inaccurate representation in the media. So stigma is a result of a lot of affective component. Like, for example, there is a stigma about poor people, right? So we can say that when we look at poor people, there can be a simple statement like all poor people are lazy. This is a negative attitude towards them, but it comes from a lot of affective component behind it and lot of misunderstanding and miscommunications, lack of representation also. So if we talk about Rabindra's psychotherapy on stigma, Rabindranath Tagore wrote a dance drama called Chandalika, where there is a girl who belongs to Chandal community, and she has been subjected to a lot of discrimination and untouchability. As we all know that untouchability was something that a lot of Indians struggled, and still it's relevant today because somewhere or other we still practice it. Like, for example, in very subtle ways, not drinking or not eating the food on the same plates as someone belonging to a lower caste. That is something that still happens in today's household also. So in Chandalika, the story is like there is a monk, as you can see in the picture. So this monk is on a journey and he gets thirsty and he asks for water from Chandalika, and Chandalika says that her name is not Chandalika, she belongs to this community. We later come to know that her name is Prakriti. So he asks her for water, and she denies it, saying that she belongs to low caste and she cannot do it because she also has some form of self stigma. So there are three forms of stigma if we look at it very closely. One is public stigma, one is self stigma, and one is institutional stigma. So what happens after a continuous public and institutional stigma is that people who are already suffering start to self stigmatize them. So she denies giving this monk, whose name is Anand, water, but the monk says that I am as much as human as you are, and then she gives him the water. So this is a crucial moment of where we overcome the self stigma, internalized stigma, and become a whole human.
Done?
Sorry, sir. Sorry. Sir, is my internet okay? Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
Okay, okay. There was no disturbance in between?
No disturbance.
Okay, okay. Sorry, sorry. So in Rabindric psychotherapy, it is consciously practiced that there is no stigma among the clients. Okay, like consciously they do not practice any such stigma for other people. Now, before we go ahead and discuss the impact of stigma, there are certain individuals or groups that are really subjected to stigma. Can I ask you what are the groups that you think are subjected to stigma?
Hello, Pragyapti.
Yes, sir.
In Ravindric psychotherapy, we assume that there are three layers of consciousness. Okay. First one is the Murta layer. Second one is the Raga layer. And third one is the Saraswat layer. Okay. So, Chandalika, she is thinking of herself based upon the Murta layer. What is that? That is the color. That is the caste. Okay. So that is the morphological structure. That is the Murta layer. Okay. And the Rag layer. Rag layer means I am untouchables. Okay. So that is the Rag layer. So that is the negative attributes. Whatever you are telling about the stigma. And this is totally changed when she understands that each individual is human being from Anant. So that becomes the Saraswat layer. Okay. So the data which is in Murta layer, that is changing when it is lying at the Rag layer. And after that, when this data comes to the Saraswat layer, then it becomes very much abstract. Okay. And at that time, some purity, some feeling of aestheticness, some psychological wellness, that usually occurred when the same image comes to the Saraswat layer. Okay. Okay, now you move to the next one.
Okay, sir. So I would request some participation from Farah ma'am. So I was asking, what groups do you think face stigma?
What happens? No, you move to the next slide.
Okay. So there are some individuals and groups who are subjected to stigma, and that can be based upon race, gender, caste, sexual orientation, religion, disability, and health status like suffering from HIV or using drugs or any form of mental illness. Stigma can also be based upon class or geographical locations, like where you are staying. So, if we talk about the impact of stigma, the impact of stigma is huge. It impacts our mental health. It can lead to guilt, depression, substance use. In some researches, it has been found that stigma also leads to reduced recovery. People stop seeking help due to stigma. People start to isolate themselves. Then there is some form of decrease in the sense of well-being, and there is discrimination, and social integration is also impacted, like housing, employment, everything gets impacted due to stigma. So what can be the strategies to deal with stigma? So one of the things that we understood first is that there is an emotional component and lack of understanding of what a person goes through when they are diagnosed with a mental illness. So one of the things that can help reduce stigma is to educate and create awareness. So education is important about the challenges of mental health issues and what are mental health issues and how treatment works. It can make people understand that mental illness is treatable. There was this movie in 2019 called Joker. When that movie came, there was a research done after that movie came, which portrayed a person suffering from mental illness become very violent. And it is considered as one of the most popular movies of 2019. So after this movie came, the researchers took a survey about what people felt about mental illness and people suffering from mental illness, and the stigma increased after watching the movie. So this form of portrayal in media is very negative. A negative portrayal, it goes out in media and people are educated with the wrong form of information. So awareness needs to be created and positive portrayal of people who have survived mental illness and are surviving mental illness and doing well in life. Like, for example, Vincent van Gogh and Beethoven both suffered from bipolar disorder. And there are also some people like Ileana D'Cruz, Deepika Padukone in our own country who have opened up and shared in public about their mental health issues. So positive portrayal of people suffering with mental health issues and still doing good in life is very important. Language is also very important when we are trying to reduce stigma. We very commonly use the terms like pagal, crazy in our daily language. So we also say some derogatory statements like suck it up, just snap out of it, other people have it tough. We say statements like this. We need to consciously learn and say something that is not so much insensitive. Like, for example, when someone is sharing, rather than saying toughen up, we can just say thank you for sharing. Support group and counseling is also something that we can use as a strategy to reduce stigma. Like, for example, Alcohol Anonymous is a support group for people who suffer with substance use disorders, specifically alcohol. And psychoeducation is important. Psychoeducation not just for members who have to deal with stigma and again caring for the person with the mental illness. Inclusion in the community for people with mental illness is important. I have seen people get jobs. So some form of rehabilitation in terms of job, volunteering work to include people of mental illness and not just say that you will be able to work when you completely recover is is kind of reinforcing the stigma. So creating more opportunities for people with mental illness and including them, creating an environment where they can work is important. Now, collaborating with the leaders and the people in advocacy is also very important. Like, for example, there are still not all banks have insurance for mental health issues. So, some form of policy change is required for reducing stigma and making the life of people with mental health issues much easier. So that's for my presentation. If you have any questions, please go ahead. Do share your.
This is not clear to me. That is, what is the difference between stereotype and stigma? Can you tell me? Because both are very vital in case of the community development. Stereotype, stigma, prejudice, all those things, are they related with each other?
Yes, sir. They are different components of. They are related, but they are different components of how we relate to a particular group. So we have some form of emotions attached to a particular group, and stereotype would be in the cognitive level, beliefs about a particular group, and so discrimination is in the behavioral component, something in the form of actions that I do, or social inclusion. It's in the part of the behavioral component. So stigma is also in the cognitive components. It's also negative attitude and beliefs that I have for a particular group.
I cannot understand how you have understood the differences among them. Stereotype, stigma, and prejudice. These three are important. And how are they related and how are they differentiated? So do you have any idea? The second part, in your presentation, you have not presented any text infographics. Because this course is related to the mental health infographics, correct? But whatever you have presented, I do not find anything about the text infographics. So another thing that is you again go to the first one, change the slide. Yeah, this is the impact of stigma you have written. This thing is fine. After that, you have written you go to the next one. Next. Next. No, that is on impact, where it is. You have written the impact of stigma. So if I want to study the impact of stigma, so you can present it in the independent and the dependent variable like that. Instead, you are writing that impact of stigma, mental health and well-being, and how the mental health and well-being are different. Social integration and the discrimination. So how are they different? Is it same mental health and well-being? Because whatever you have told, that is not reflected in your PPT. Okay, so please you improve your PPT so that these things can be understood. Okay. And it is a research institute. Therefore, whatever your presentation, that should be very much research oriented, not very just motivational speaker.
Okay,
Okay,
sir. Okay.
this is vital. It is a research institute, so your presentation will be research oriented. There should be some methodology that should be the focused area. Okay.
Okay,
Farah, would
sir.
you like to add something?
No, sir, not particularly. I like what she presented, but I think she is nervous because this is her first chance. So she did not convey the message like properly, like she do all the time. So I liked it, but maybe next time she will express more. Right,
Yeah.
Raghavati? You have not
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah, because she's good in expressing her points, but this time I think she is very nervous because her mother is also here, so maybe because of that
No,
I think.
mother is not here.
Okay, mother is not here. Okay.
Yeah,
Mother
yeah,
just
she
left.
left actually. There was some issue. I don't know what happened. I have to check.
Okay, no worries, this is her
So
first
can I
chance.
add something?
Yeah, Vidhi, yeah, sure.
Yes, Bidhi, do you want to say
Hello.
something? Yeah, Bidhi,
Yes, sir. Like I would like to add something.
sure.
So, Pragati, like it was very well presented. But like I think like you can add some points more, like just my perspective. Like in impact of stigma, we can even add like the levels stigma impact us, such as at individual level, how it impacts us, at community level, how it is impacting. So like through that micro to micro, we can even show how stigma can be impacted, can impact. Like through stigma, there is like individual problems are there, but along with the community also faces a lot of problem. So stigma, different types of stigma as it comes along. So I don't know
Thank
whether
you.
I'm
Thank
clear
you,
with my
Bidhi.
point or not. Did you understand?
Yes, 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 definitely.
Bidhi, you have not mentioned whatever I have presented in the group.
Sir, sorry.
I have presented one text in your group.
So which, sir, sorry, I'm not aware.
That I do
So
not
which
know
text?
because on which date.
Vidhi is talking about that where he see I posted mental health infographics for community development and there were so many themes written below. From that you have chosen
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
yeah, yeah. So the last one he was talking about.
Yes. Sir, I was talking about how stigma affects like at individual level or how it affects at community level.
I
So I was
understand.
just integrating there. The
No, you just follow me. This is a research institute, okay? It is not a college. It is not the simple university. It is above them. So why it is? Because it is research institute. So you want the research methods,
yes, sir.
okay? So when you want to say something, you have to give maximum priority on the research methodology. Understand my point?
Yes, sir.
So this institute is different. It is not the college. It is not the college. It is not the university. It is more than that. So we do not like the presentation, which is very much just motivational speaker. They are telling something. It is not like that. Okay, so keep in mind. Okay. And I'm requesting the same thing to BD also. When BD will present, BD, please, you always keep in
Yes,
mind,
sir, I'm noting it.
it is a research
Yes, sir, I'm
institute.
noting it.
Because when you join, when you tell, when you introduce yourself to any institute, they will tell, okay, you are from the Research Institute Trust. So what research methodology you have understood? For example, there are different type of qualitative research methodology to understand the community level stigma. I know. So you
Yes,
can
sir.
add something whenever you will, it should not be very casual because it is a research institute. Therefore, we are giving priority on the research methods.
Sir, can we even quote some researchers, like some famous researchers in that area?
Yeah, definitely. You can do some research. Community mental health infographics, that is very vital. So it should be very much research oriented. Okay. So this is better. That is, we have not presented in the national level webinar because then we'll face a lot of the question. Okay. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Please you improve yourself. This is my suggestion. Okay. Good night.
Good night, sir. Good night, Pragati. Good night, Vidhi.
Right,
Good
good
night,
night.
ma'am.